Shishtam Tyageshwaram Ramakrishnam Saradam Matrarupinim Vivekanandamacharyam Natva Vakshami Shuddhaya. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastama Vidvashavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In our last class, we discussed about three states that we pass through in 24 hours. So in 24 hours, we pass through waking state, then through state of dreaming when we sleep, dream state, and then there is deep sleep state. And one of the Upanishads, with the help of these three states, it tries to bring to our notice or tries to tell us what exactly is our nature. Because these three states, they are kind of mutually exclusive. I may go to bed in a very happy state and wake up in dream quite pained. I may eat in my dream and wake up hungry. So the states are, so my experience about myself in these three states is quite different. And when I'm dreaming, I don't doubt that it's a dream. It is as real as the waking state, during waking state. Just as the waking experience is real in waking state, so is dream experience real in dream state. So then the question comes, which of these is true? Only when I wake up, I say, okay, dream, it was a dream, so it was false. But while dreaming, it was quite real. Just as now this waking state is real. So the question comes, which of these is actually my real nature? The waking me is real or the dreaming me is real, and in the deep sleep I have no awareness of anything. Is that real? Which is real then? And the answer is that which is the common factor in all these three states, that is the experiencer. I have been there in all the three states. I wake up and say I did not know anything, which means I was there even in deep sleep state. I saw a dream, I am having the waking experience. So the experiencer is the common factor, and that is that experiencer bereft of these varying experiences. That is our real nature. That's what one of the Upanishads, the Mandukya Upanishad, that it takes us through that process. In Kathopanishad, only one state is described, that is of dream state. When we fall asleep and we are seeing dream, our external sense organs are not working. Eyes are shut, ears, nose, they do not bring any sensation, any stimulus. But still, in dream, we see things, we hear things, we talk, we smell, we experience happiness, misery, all that. Now, who is it that is creating all these objects in the dream state? It says that is your true nature. And it picks up dream state because in dream state, we see ourselves as distinct from ourselves. If we try to recall or recollect the dream state, our experience, not the content of the dream per se, but the experience of the state as such, we find that we have been observing ourselves. So our nature as the witness becomes very manifest in the dream state. And that is why this Upanishad takes up that dream state and says that he who keeps awake when all the senses have slept and creates desirable objects, that is Brahman. That is our true nature. So to say, the illuminator, that which illumines all the three states. Only thing is, at the dream state, that illuminator nature becomes very manifest. So that was what was told in the earlier class. Now, in a different way, the same topic of the self, the Atman, Brahman, God, whatever you call it, Shruti is trying to tell us our real nature. That is the only subject of the Upanishads. Upanishads have nothing else to tell than bring home our real nature. The topic that will be discussed in next 2 3 mantras is like this. There are so many individuals, innumerable individuals. Humans themselves are so many. Then there are deities. Then there are beasts, animals, plants, birds, individual souls. Now the question comes, the Shruti is telling Atma, Atma, does every individual have a separate soul? I have my own soul and others, everyone has its own soul. Is it that way? Or is it one soul which is appearing as many, one Atman which is appearing as many? And if it is one Atman, then how does it appear as many? That is the question. Whether there are innumerable Atmans or there is only one Atman. Innumerable Atmans prati sharira, with every body, or whether there is only one Atman. And if it is one, how does it appear as many? That is the question. And the conclusion is that as experiencers and doers, karta bhokta, as jiva, individual self, the transmigrant, samsari, we are innumerable, we are independent. Each individual is a jiva, independent of the other. Because one attains liberation, others continue in a state of ignorance. One is happy, the other is unhappy. So this distinction is there. So at the level of individual jiva, bound souls as we call them, samsari, transmigrant, we are distinct. There is multiplicity. But that which is appearing as all these is only one. This jivahood is not our absolute nature. That is not the reality of our being. It's a vyavaharika, transactionally true. But in our true nature, there is only one self. We say one self because that is the nearest we can go in terms of number. Actually, it is non-dual. It's Advaita. But the nearest we can go is one. So there is only one self which is appearing as innumerable individual selves. That is the conclusion. And this fact, Shruti is going to tell through different examples. 2 3 examples Shruti will give. So it says, Agnir yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo bahuva ekastatha sarva bhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahishcha. Vayur yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo bahuva ekastatha sarva bhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahishcha. So it is giving 2 examples to tell us how one thing, one entity appears as many. Which is, take the example of fire. We have to understand there is something called fire principle, Agni Tattva, that is not manifest. We cannot perceive it with our senses. But it is there all over. Agnir yathaiko bhuvanam pravishtu. It has entered the whole world. It is not manifest, it is unmanifest. But we know it is there because unless it were there, it wouldn't manifest. But when it manifests in multivarious ways, multiple ways. When fire manifests itself in the world, the manifest fire is multifarious. Somewhere it is small fire, somewhere it is big fire. Somewhere it is square, rectangle, somewhere triangular, somewhere round, somewhere in the form of a stick. If an iron rod is heated, The fire will appear in the form of a stick. Somewhere it will appear blue. In the gas oven it will appear as blue fire. Somewhere red, somewhere yellow, somewhere white. It is one fire principle. When it manifests, it takes the shape and form and color of the combustible through which it is manifesting itself. And it serves different purposes also. Some fire is used to cook food, some fire is used to get light, some fire is used to get warmth, and then we'll call it by different names like cooking fire, hearth, candle. So one fire, on account of the differentiation in the combustible entities through which it is manifesting itself, assumes different forms, different names, and performs different functions also. All the three are different. The name is different, it gets different names, it gets different forms, it performs different functions, though as a principle it is only one. This is what we see in the world. One fire. In different forms it manifests itself. And the differentiation is in the combustibles. These names and forms and purposes, they do not intrinsically belong to the fire. We cannot absolutely pin them on the fire, saying that fire is only red or fire is only blue or fire can only cook or fire can only give warmth. We cannot absolutely pin these qualities on the fire. These qualities are according to the combustibles. But fire is only one. So also air. Vayur yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto. When it comes to air, they give two examples. One is as a prana, it enters into our body. This Vayu as a prana enters into our body. And in earlier classes, we have seen there are pancha pranas, 5 different names of the same principle of prana, and 5 different functions: inhalation, exhalation, assimilation of food, circulation of blood, even the movements of the mind, that is thoughts. All these are functions of prana. So one prana, having entered the body, performs different functions and gets different names also. It is prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana. Different names it gets. It is one prana. One has become many. One manifests as many, depending on the medium of manifestation. The differences are in the mediums of manifestation, not in the entity which is manifesting. So that is inside. The other example or the other application of the same principle is the outside air. This air, outside air, is there we use for different purposes. We use it to breathe in, to get oxygen from it. In air pillows, we use it as a pillow. It has a shape, rectangular shape. We put that air in the tires and all that, and we use it to drive vehicles. Then it becomes round. We put it in tubes and help children to float on water. Air tubes. Again, it has different form, different name, different function. The entity is only one, air. But depending on where it is being used, where it is manifesting itself, the medium, depending on that, it assumes different names, different forms, different purposes. So fire also and air also. These two examples are given. Agni and Vayu. Principally they are one. There is only one Agni. There is only one air. But when it manifests, depending on the medium of manifestation, it gets different names, different forms, different functions it performs. So also, self, Brahman, Atman, God is only one, unmanifest. But it manifests itself through innumerable individual jivas. And then it assumes different names, different forms, performs different functions. Somewhere it appears as man, somewhere as woman, somewhere as child, somewhere as old man, somewhere as deity, devata, or pashu pakshi, trees, plants, in various forms that oneself manifests itself. The differentiation is not in the self, it is in the medium of manifestation. None of these differences can be pinned absolutely on the self. Self is not bound by these, limited by these. In its own nature, it is independent of all these. But just as that one fire appears as many, that one air appears as many, so one self appears as innumerable, infinite actually, individuals in various forms, names performing different functions. So this is how Shruti tries to tell us that how, though we are different at the level of transmigrants, in our real nature, there is no difference. There is only one principle which is appearing in all these different forms, including ourselves and the others. It is one principle which is appearing. This especially this Agni, these two mantras are slightly different explanation, may not be exactly according to the Bhashya. Or on a side note, you can say, see these two, the Agni and Vayu, these two represent two different powers which are manifest in the world, which belong to the self. Agni represents the Jnana Shakti, the power to know, and Vayu represents the Prana Shakti, the Kriya Shakti, the power to act. We have these two powers. We can know things. We can think, we know things, we act on that knowledge. So there is that power to know and there is power to act. Both these, the source of all these powers, of these two powers manifest in all beings, is only one, and that is God, or self, or Atman, whatever you call it. So, with that power lent to us by the self, we perform our functions. It is not only these two powers, but there is a third power or satta, that is the very existence itself. It is the self which lends us existence. From self, we get our existence, our power to know, and our power to act. This satta, jnana shakti, and kriya shakti, all three. The source is only self. For all beings, from Brahma up to the blade of grass, for all beings, they all draw their existence from the self. They all act, drawing the power to act from the self, and they all know, drawing the power to know from the self. So this Agni and Vayu, they represent these two powers, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti. This is one on a side note. Second point, we are talking of individuals. But Upanishad goes one step further, other places, it is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. It is not only the individual souls, which are manifestations of God or Brahman or Atman, even what we call inanimate objects, matter, that is also nothing but the self. Because it exists, and whatever exists, tadunatyati kaschana, nothing can transcend it. Whatever exists is nothing but the self. So Upanishad goes one step beyond and says, not only Chaitanya but Jada also is an expression of the self. And depending on the medium of expression, that self appears as dead matter. But there is nothing apart from the self. There is nothing apart from the Atman. There is nothing apart from God. that incident in Guru Maharaj and Swamiji's life. Swamiji joked, "Oh, this pot is also a consciousness, and this plate is also conscious." And Sri Ram said, "Yes," and then he touched him. The moment he touched, he actually felt that everything was conscious. So this is not a figment of somebody's imagination. This can be experienced. God pervading the entire universe, God lending its existence to everything that exists, everything that knows, everything that acts. It is all God's power. It is all the power of the Atman. So this is the second point. And the third point is fire is present in every particle of the wood. But for us to make use of it, it has to manifest itself. Unless the fire manifests itself, we cannot make use of that fire. So also, self is manifest within us and in all human beings and in all matter. Everywhere, self is not manifest now, it exists. Self exists as the substratum of everything. It is not manifest. Mere existence of the self as the substratum of all, it doesn't serve any purpose to us. Intellectual knowledge that we and all are in the self, we are drawing our existence from the self. We are drawing our power to know from the self. We are drawing our power to act from the self. God is in everyone. Intellectual knowledge, if we don't use it, it is of no use. It will not help us. If we don't put it to use, if we don't act on it, it will not help us. But the maximum help we'll get is when that fire becomes manifest, when we are able to realize God within us and without us, like fire manifesting itself. When that knowledge manifests itself, knowledge which is God or knowledge of God, when it manifests itself, then only it becomes helpful to us to transcend this problem of transmigration. So mere existence of the self or the knowledge, intellectual knowledge, that will not help us. We have to bring out that fire from the wood. We have to manifest that knowledge of God within us and without, that realization. Only that will help. That will help us transcend this cycle of births and rebirths. Sri Ramakrishna says, there is fire in the wood. One who knows it is a jnani, no doubt. But it doesn't satisfy his hunger. He has to light fire, bring out that fire which is in the wood, cook food in that fire, and then eat it and gain strength. Then only that fire has helped him. Fire which was dormant in the wood, it has helped only when it has been manifested. It has been brought out. So also this self-existing, abiding, being the substratum of all of us, it has to be brought out, so to say. Then only it will help us in overcoming this transmigration. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.